Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this video. I am the Flying Scotsman, and in this video, we are going to be taking part in DOScember. Yes, indeed, it is another month where retro computer YouTubers get together to take a look at a computer manufacturer or a piece of retro hardware and software, and basically spend a month making videos about it. Now, last month we had Packvember, which was all about Packard Bell as they were. And this month, well, it's all about DOS, disk operating systems. The operating systems that we would find on our computers in about the late 70s, up through the 80s and even into the 90s. Now, specifically in this video, we are going to be looking at a program which has just booted up on my Virtual Compact Desk Pro 386 called Norton Desktop. Now, what is Norton Desktop? Well, according to WinWorld PC, Norton Desktop is a powerful desktop shell and file manager bundled with many tools. There are versions for both DOS and Microsoft Windows. Now, originally it gave Microsoft Windows 3.x a somewhat Macintosh-like appearance, with drives and program icons directly on the desktop, and a persistent menu bar. It includes a backup program, a document viewer, icon editor, enhanced calculator, and built-in screensavers. But we are taking a look at the DOS version of Norton Desktop today. So what did that include? Well, Norton Desktop 1.0 for DOS, again, provides a Mac-like file manager using only character cell text mode. It also bundles several tools from Norton Utilities, such as Desktop and Speed Disk. Now, this came out, as far as I'm aware, in 1992. Look, there we go, copyright 1992 by Symantec Corporation. Which means that the original Windows version of Norton Desktop predated this DOS version. So, Norton Desktop. What is it for then? Well, as a few of you may know, MS-DOS itself can be a wee bit intimidating. Look, we've just dropped down to MS-DOS, and you're literally dropped at the prompt. Now, if you're booting from a floppy disk, that'll be A:\\, but because we're booting from a hard disk, it is C:\\. And to be able to navigate your way around DOS, you have to use cryptic commands. So if I wanted to navigate to the Norton Desktop directory, I have to go CD space ND. If I then wanted to display the contents of that directory, dir. Well, that's very useful, is it? But first of all, what happened to the files that just scrolled right past? And second of all, how did I know that those were the commands? Well, it's because I've been using DOS for a very long time. But if I was new to DOS, if I was just sat down in front of a computer in the 1980s or the 1990s and told, there you are, on you go, get to work, what would I do? Well, this is where Norton Desktop for MS-DOS comes in. Over the years, of course, there have been quite a few shells for MS-DOS that have tried to make it very easy. You know, things like Top View from IBM or DOS Shell from Microsoft. There's been a few menu programs. Then there's also been full operating environments, things like Gem Desktop from Digital Research. And, of course, the more famous one, Microsoft Windows. Also, I just want to mention that Top View also wanted to be an operating environment. And there was talk at the time of its release about programs being made to be top view aware, so they would know to expect that top view would be loaded up on the computer rather than just DOS itself. So where does Norton Desktop fall in this shell versus operating environment? Do you know, I would probably call it a shell. But, like when World PC said, it is a shell that comes with a lot of different features. And, as you saw at the beginning of this video, it does actually start with the computer. I mean, I just installed Norton Desktop for DOS, I followed the instructions, and this is how it configured itself. So when I switch on this computer, I'm dropped at this desktop. Now, yes, it just uses the text cell mode, but you do get a graphical mouse pointer. That obviously can be changed to the block. But things are a wee bit easier. But still, if you're not sure what everything is, let me introduce you to Norton Desktop for MS-DOS. So first of all, at the top, you've got the title bar. It says Norton Desktop, and it even has the time. It's 9:10 a.m. Then you've got the menu bar, the so-called persistent menu bar. Now, a true persistent menu bar would change what options were available depending on which apps were loaded, and no version of Norton Desktop really has that, because any application loaded, even into the Windows version of Norton Desktop, will bring its own menu bar, and it will still be contained within that window. However, the Norton Desktop menu bar is always going to be here. Well, there is nothing actually overlapping it. If you go back to Norton Desktop, you'll always see the menu bar up here at the top. So you also have the desktop background, which is set to grey. And then you have your button bar. Now, you'll notice all the options are numbered, so they do actually correspond to your function keys. So if you pressed F2, you have the Norton menu. If you pressed F3, then you can view a file. And so on and so forth. You can actually edit files. So if I wanted to edit my autoexec.bat files, say I didn't want Norton Desktop to load with the computer anymore, that's easy. All I have to do is type in the name of autoexec.bat, and there we go. I could go in there and I could put Ren in front of that, and then that would comment out that line, and it just would not load Norton Desktop at startup. So what we're going to do, we'll just close that, and we're not going to save any changes, and actually we'll exit back to the desktop. And you've even got options for printing, moving, copying, deleting files. So how do you navigate your files on Norton Desktop? Well, earlier I used the DOS command prompt to navigate myself to the Norton Desktop folder. Let's do that in Norton Desktop. Now, what I can do is I can actually double click on my hard drive. How do I know it's a hard drive? Well, we have little icons. The floppy A and B drives look like old school floppy drives, so I know that that's what they are, whereas a hard disk, it's a box with what looks like a light on it. So we're going to double click on that, just like you would in Windows or Mac OS, and look, we have a folder window. So it's actually showing the contents of my C drive. Now, I wanted to go to Norton Desktop. Oh, that's easy. Look at this. We've got a bunch of folders. We know that they're folders because there's a picture of a folder. So we'll double click on ND, and there we are. Fantastic. So now we want to go back to the C drive. Well, we can just go up. Oh, look, there's a up there. And now we're back in the root of the C directory. Now, Norton Desktop can be used to manage files. You can make directories. So let's open the C drive. I want to make myself a directory. Go down to File, go up to File, and then down to Make Directory. And let's just call it J. And let's have a look at some of the other options. Yep, I can plonk it on the C drive. Look at that. Even though I was in the C drive, I could actually change where I want to make the directory. So if I decided, hang on a minute, no, I don't want it on the hard drive, do I? I want to make it on a floppy disk. Well, there I go. Just insert the diskette and select it, and then I can make the directory on there. Now, we do want to make the directory on the hard disk. So, yeah, well, we will just keep it there. Why is my hard disk drive called B? I just noticed that's a label for it. That's quite confusing. So we're going to click OK, and look, there we are. I have my own directory. I can put some work in there. So let's go off and do some work. How am I going to do that? Well, this is where Norton Desktop actually has some of its tricks, because I've got a couple of word processors installed on this computer. How do I access them? Well, this is a bit tricky actually in the DOS version. I think I need to go to Tools and then Menu. Ah, right, okay. See, I created a menu before and it's obviously not saved, so okay, let's auto build a menu, shall we? So there's the first glitch. That should have saved maybe, because I did make a menu. And it probably is there. Auto building a menu. So what this has done is went away, decided it wants to scan applications on my hard disk, and it's actually going to go off now and create some menus. The hope is that I should then be able to launch my applications from Norton Desktop in the easiest way possible, not having to even remember the commands. Oh, look at that. So now we have a main menu. I like that. So I'm wondering if this then stays on the desktop. Does this okay, does this stay? Okay, so now it's gone. So oh look, now I've got a menu. So yeah, no, we do have a menu. So the one I made earlier didn't work, but there we go. So we've got program groups, or that's what they would be called in Windows. So we've got, if we go to operating, double click on that, new window opens, and it shows Norton Desktop for DOS. Well, to be honest, I'm already in that. Programming, look, we've got the Microsoft Code View and Microsoft Quick Basic Interpreter. Yep, they are programming tools. What about utilities? Batch Enhancer, Norton AntiVirus, Norton Desktop Style, Safe Format Speed Disk, and System Information. So we could hop in there, have a look, and it'll tell me what the machine is. It's a Compaq, May the 10th, 1988. Do you know what? We'll come back to that, actually, because these are things you can access from within Norton Desktop itself. Now, what we really wanted was to go into word processing. Now, it's picked up one of my word processors. I do have another one. So why don't we go ahead and add that? And this will be quite a nice nod and a wink to the fact that TFS Christmas is coming, because this was a Christmas present recommendation once. Very famously, a Christmas present recommendation from Computer Chronicles commentator Paul Schindler. He suggested that the best Christmas present was a $300 word processor called XyWrite, spelled XyWrite. So we have that installed on this Compaq. So let's yeah, no, we're not going to overwrite that. Right, can I actually add to my menu? Yes, I can. So File, Open, Word Processing, Edit, Add. So what we're going to do is we'll add XyWrite. and then we can browse. So it's actually quite easy to do. I've been tripped up a few times already, actually, so maybe it's not the easiest. But I'll tell you, it's a lot easier than raw DOS if you don't know what you're doing. Editor.exe. And there we go. $300 word processor. XyWrite. You know, best wishes for the season, Paul Schindler. So, there we go. We can hop in there. And I even have a la carte, and should have a la carte enabled if I wasn't running within okay, never mind. So there we go, that's XyWrite. What I can do though is I can do some work in WordPerfect. So yeah, there we go. So things will take a wee bit longer to load because, you know, we've got Norton Desktop underneath. This machine has 4 megs of RAM. A lot of machines didn't back then, you know. 4 megs of RAM was, I think, just kind of starting to become standard by 1992. So, you know, it wasn't a given that your system would have 4 megs of RAM back then. So, Rockin' Waves 11294 presents Holiday of Rockin' 2025. So what we'll do, we'll save that. Document to be saved, CJ Holiday. There we go. So we've got that saved. Whoops, yeah. Whoops. Save document. And exit WordPerfect. There you go. So let's go back now and have a look at that viewer. So I've got a small WordPerfect document. So I can press F3 to view, or I can just use that button bar as a toolbar. So that's what we're going to do. So oh look, holiday. And look, it's actually viewing it. It's a WordPerfect document. So that's a wee bit of what you can do with Norton Desktop. But what else does it come with? Well, like I said, you've got the editor for editing text files. DOS 5 came with MS-DOS editor. Earlier versions came with quite cumbersome program called Edlin, where you could edit files line by line, and you had to tell it which line you wanted to edit or add or delete. You know, I've used it. I can just about use it, but it is a wee bit cumbersome. And then you have to know to type in a command, you know, a single letter command to save your work or to exit without saving. I don't like using it. Honestly, I install another Norton program called Norton Commander, which usually also comes with an editor as well, which is quite easy to use. You've also got network support. That is quite good. It'll support Novell Netware, Artisoft Lantastic. Who remembers that? I never used it. Banyan Vibes, LAN Manager, and other NetBIOS. So if we had a network, we could link into it using Norton Desktop. That does make sense, actually. But it's also a very, very nice feature. We can add a printer if we wanted to. So I do believe I have a printer, but it's not one that is supported. I'm using an Epson LQ2550 standard ESC2 printer, as 86 box will emulate. Compression. Apparently there's you know, you can compress files and what have you. That's quite good. And then you've got desktop link, which you can link two computers together over what looks like a null modem cable, or even a parallel port cable. Null modem is like DB9 serial cable that has DB9 female at both ends. I think it's female. It's you've got the pins on the actual port on the motherboard or the card itself, so yeah. Anyway, let's have a look at what else we have. We've got quite a lot, actually. Kind of reminds me of Tandy Deskmate, some of the stuff you have. You don't have a paint program, though. But here is your calculator. So, look, we can we can do some sums. So 2 plus 2 equals 4. Look at that. Just absolute cutting edge mathematics here. There we go. We also have a calendar. So you can also drop down to a DOS session, but still have Norton Desktop up in the background. So if I wanted to go to J, and I could del holiday. So I've done some DOS work, so I'm ready to return, type exit. So it's basically like using the DOS prompt in Windows. So now we come to our Norton Utilities. So I think I've just deleted holiday. Now, is this going to work? Can I get this back? So double click on that. Oh, look, I can get it back. So let's view it, see if it's what I'm after. Okay, that's not worked. That's fine. Let's try this. Kind of, sort of. Yeah, do you know what? I think what we'll do is we'll unerase that. Recovered. This file has been recovered. That's good. That is fantastic. So let's go back to the viewer. And there we go. Look at that. Now, I did that quite by accident. I wasn't sure what I was going to do in DOS, so I thought I'd delete a file, and I'm glad I did, because that actually made it so that I was able to show the UnErase feature, and it worked. Next, we have Speed Disk, which I think literally just tries to speed up your disk by defragmenting it. Now, I don't want to try this. I don't want to try this because this VM is actually on an SSD. So I know I'm not defragmenting the file system itself, but I'm defragmenting something on it. I don't know if that would damage my SSD. We have Norton Disk Doctor. That should help me if my SSD became damaged. I don't think. So we can test the integrity of a disk. That could be a hard disk or a floppy disk. So that's that's basically the scan disk. And yep, as you can see, that's going and scanning the disk. Now, this is pre-configured to scan on startup. So you will have seen this working before. And there we go. Do you wish to test the surface of drive C for physical defects? Do you know what? No, I don't think we're going to do that. So, for a quick check, everything is okay. Partition table, okay. DOS boot record, okay. File allocation tables, okay. Directory structure, okay. File structure, okay. Lost clusters, okay. Surface test, skipped it. So, that's absolutely fine. Let's go and quit that. And we'll go to Norton Backup. I'm just going to show the app. I'm not actually going to try and back anything up. But, yeah, that requires configuration. That, backs up things to diskettes, I think. Norton AntiVirus. Well, again, you've seen this before. Norton AntiVirus is still kind of a thing today. You can actually still go out and buy Norton AntiVirus. I say you can go out, but actually what I mean is you can go to Norton's website and actually purchase and download your Norton security. The antivirus stuff is all wrapped up in that. Whether you think Norton AntiVirus is a good or a bad idea, do you know what? It was terrible in the 2000s, then kind of became a lot nicer in the 2010s, but still, it doesn't seem to score that highly on detection rates, which is a bit of a shame. So I would say probably not Norton AntiVirus these days. And finally, we've got mail. Mail? Wait, so we could send email? Okay, we can create those. What email standards does it support? Let's have a look. MCI mail. That's pretty cool. So if you had access to MCI mail, then yeah, you can use that from Norton Desktop. Then you've got scheduler. I think. Yeah. All right. So that would be. I'm guessing the scheduler would schedule programs to run at a certain time. Yeah, so yes, it does. So it's like the task scheduler in Windows. You can actually get it to run a particular program at a particular time. So let's come back now to system information. We had a bit of a look earlier. Now this not only displays system information. Look, I can show you the computer that I have configured here. Compact Disk Pro with the 1988 BIOS. 20 megahertz, it says 21, but it's 20 megahertz 386 with a 387 Mathco processor. VGA adapter, it's using a Senglabs ET4000, quite a nice adapter. Microsoft, it's got serial mouse version 7.04, that's the drivers I'm using, Microsoft Mouse 7.04. 100 megabyte hard disk, specifically a Connor. 1.44 meg floppy drive and a 1.2 meg floppy drive. The 1.44 meg floppy drive is 3.5 inch. And the 1.2 meg floppy drive is 5.25 inch. We can also see the memory, DOS memory 640k, extended memory 3072k, and extended memory 3072k, and expanded memory none. Other info: PC type ISA PCIe, serial ports 2, parallel ports 1, 801 key keyboard, operating system DOS 5.0, CPU speed high. Also, then we can have a look at my display settings. At the moment, it's a VGA using an analog color monitor. At the moment, it's using mode 3, which is color 80 by 80 column by 25 rows. Maximum scan lines 400. Character size 9 by 16, and CGA cursor emulation enabled. Video memory 256k or more. Kind of hope so. Actually, yeah, it is. It's got a MEGD as a Senglabs card, which would have been overkill for a system of this type, honestly. B800 video segment address, B800 in hex, and video page size 4096 bytes. And then it shows me the hardware interrupt. Quite useful, actually, if I wanted to add a new piece of hardware. I could see what resources were in use, certainly in terms of interrupts. And we also have software interrupts as well. If we keep going through, look at disk summary, the capacities of any disks that we have on the system. So if we keep going, the system will go into a benchmark test, and it'll benchmark this system against similar systems. So we're not going to do that just now, but there you are. You can actually go into system information. You can look at stuff itself, and you can even look at the config.sys and autoexec.bat. Print a report about your system. So let's jump out of that, and we are now back in Norton Desktop. Now, yes, you can actually set it so programs start up with it, which is, quite good, actually. Or is that setting up autoexec.bat? That's, I quite like that. So Norton Desktop really does make DOS as easy to use as Windows. So you can change your clock. You can actually change your date and time. So go to 24-hour time, and just, if we didn't want it displaying the time, we don't have to have it displaying the time if we don't want it. Video and mouse, well, we can change the color scheme as well. And like I said, we can block the cursor, the zoom in boxes effect we can turn off. Solid background, button arrows, so we could turn those off. Graphical mouse, we could turn that off. Left-handed mouse, so we could have it so that the right mouse button is your left click instead. So, we've got all that. But, tell you what we also have as well. Oh wow, you can actually change the style of Norton Desktop. Look at that. So, reconfigured it now so it looks like Norton Commander. Look at that. But you know what I am going to do? I'm actually going to change that back. Norton Commander is good, and I'm going to be honest, I do tend to use it on some DOS systems, and I even use the open source variant, Midnight Commander, on Linux boxes as well. So that is something that I do use. However, this video is about Norton Desktop, not Norton Commander, so we'll just forget all about that. Now, one thing I did want to show you though is the screensaver, because okay, so I was expecting, because Norton Desktop kind of uses the text cell mode, I was expecting screensavers to also use that, and indeed some of them do. Look, so your brick out characters, it's literally bricking out the display cell by cell by cell, and it would all go black. However, imagine my surprise when I tested the bug screensaver and it booted into a graphical mode. Yes, folks, Norton Desktop for Windows famously had screensavers because Windows 3.0 originally did not. So too does Norton Desktop for DOS have screensavers. That is fantastic. So look at that. We've got bungees. We've got the eyes. Ugh, this, I don't want that. Also got faces. So if you wanted something, it's also a wee bit creepy. And fireworks. This is quite a nice one. So we've got quite a few screensavers. I'm not going to go through them all here, but there you are. Now this was really good, was Norton Desktop. It really was a fantastic companion to any DOS computer. And, you know, if you didn't want Windows, but you wanted your DOS computer to be easy to use, well, Norton Desktop, I think, was something that you could consider. Obviously, you can still only run DOS programs with it, but hey, you can run DOS programs through Norton Desktop. I think, though, the problem with Norton Desktop for DOS is that Windows did exist. And in 1992, Windows 3.1 would come out. You know, and that was a version of Windows that really put the operating system on the map. And a lot of DOS users were starting to migrate over. I mean, sure, in business, there was still a lot of MS-DOS programs in use. And yes, I do believe there was also a lot of computers running straight up DOS. But for home and small office users, and certainly schools, they were transitioning over to Windows. Now, would they use the Windows versions of Norton Desktop? Well, I can tell you right now that when I was at school and we had Windows 3.1 computers, we didn't. We just used a program manager. But again, it's not actually a bad piece of software for the home, for the time. So there we go. Anyway, that is a story for another day, because I do believe, I think it was a Nostalgia Mall suggested to me that I should do a video on Norton Desktop. And indeed I have, for DOScember. But hopefully in the new year, I would like to take a look at some Windows versions of Norton Desktop. So please do join me for that in the new year. But now for this video, I think it's time that I wrap things up. So thank you all for watching, and please do join me for my next video. Cheery bye. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button. You could also subscribe to the channel and hit the wee bell icon to be notified when I have published a new video. But until then, please feel free to check out some of my previous videos.